Hi guys, sorry this video's so late. Remember we have teacher meetings after school on Wednesdays. Alright, well, let's start with what we were doing today. We were adding fractions to decimals or decimals to fractions. So for our first example, we're going to add 34 hundredths plus 7 tenths. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is solve it as a decimal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make both of them decimals. Okay, and then I'll show you the other way. So as decimals, I see that I have 34 hundredths and I have 7 tenths. So I know that the rule, one very important rule to follow when you're adding decimals, is to line up your decimals. Okay, so I'm going to put my 34 hundredths and always put the decimal right on the line, and then I have 7 tenths. So I'm going to write that as 7 tenths, and then of course I know empty spots get a 0. Add that up, and then you get 4 plus 0, that's 4. 7 plus 3, that's 10, so I put a 0 here and bring the 1 over here. Okay, so that's 1 plus 0 plus 0, that's 1. So my answer would be 1 4 hundredths. Okay, then I'm going to come over here and do fractions. Okay, so this time I'm going to make them both fractions. Okay, so I see the 34 hundredths. I know that you write that as 34 hundredths. Okay, and then the other one is already a fraction, 7 tenths. Okay, and just like what we did yesterday, that was to line them up vertically. So I am going to do 34 hundredths plus 7 tenths. Okay, now that is a very big denominator. Okay, that 100, I know that is going to be my least common denominator. It's going to be that 100. Okay, so I'm going to write 100, and I'm going to write 100 down here. Okay, so now I think 100 times what will give me 100? 100 times 1. And then 34 times 1, that's 34. Down here, 10 times what is 100? I know that 10 times 10 is 100. And so 7 times 10 is 70. Okay, now I add those up, and I have 4 plus 0, that's 4. And then 7 plus 3, that's 10. So that's 104. And then my denominator is 100th. Okay, now we know that that is an improper fraction, so what I'm going to do is divide to see what mixed number I can make out of that. So 104 divided by 100, that goes in there one time, and then that gives me 100, and I have 4 left over. So I'm going to rewrite that as 1 4 hundredths. Okay, now I see those, and I know that the last step, anytime my answer is a fraction, the last step is always to simplify. Okay, so I'm going to find the factors for 4 and for 100. Okay, so 1 times 4, 2 times 2. And then for 100, 1 times 100, 2 times 50, 4 times 25, and 5 times 20, and 10 times 10. Okay, so I can tell that my greatest common factor is that 4. So I am going to divide by 4. So 4 divided by 4, that's going to give me 1. And 100 divided by 4, that's going to give me 25. Okay, and don't forget that one whole over here. So your answer is 1 and 1/25. Alright, and then don't forget that we can also compare it to our decimal. This fraction right here before we simplified matches what we did on the decimal side. 1 400ths. Over here, 1 400ths.